introduce mo lang si Sir, si Sir, and then mag-play kami video ni Sir, and then allow naman si Sir mag-start na.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second part of our Saturday lecture. I just hope that everybody has had great lunch. So it seems that everybody is now ready to be taking part right now to the afternoon session of our webinar series, Thinking Inside the Box. Now, before we officially introduce to you another great man, an expert in the field of research, to inspire all of us and share very nice topic, which is all about best practices in the teaching of research, blending pedagogical techniques and smart practices. Let me first give a little introduction about him. He happens to be the principal of Alcarte Gustelo Memorial National High School in the Philippines and is one of the top 10 finalists out of 30,000 all over the world in the Million Global Teachers Prize competition. He is a proud member of the indigenous peoples Panay Bukidnon community. From a poor farming family, he is the first family member to achieve professional qualifications and is now the leader of and teacher in a school in the Philippines in a community where over 90% of students belong to indigenous peoples group. Through his advocacy work, he has promoted education to indigenous communities, encouraging greater participation and for higher rates of enrollment in higher education. He is also an active one in promoting the rights and welfare of the indigenous people. He now uses his own story of hope and perseverance to inspire others to overcome hardship and reach their dreams. His approach to teaching is known as culture based education, which he models in his school throughout the curriculum. It is his dream that education throughout this country will become truly inclusive and culture sensitive. With this approach, students become engaged in their education, learning through traditional dance, songs, epics, local games, and crafts that give context to their studies. Test scores have revealed that at least 87% of his pupils achieve their age expected grades through culture based teaching. He has also received many national and international awards for teaching and also for his writing and his promotion and support for indigenous culture. So, our participants, get ready as we welcome our next lecturer, our next research expert, again, talking about best practices in the teaching of research, blending pedagogical techniques, and smart practices. Here is Dr. Jesus Ensalada.
Mag-play kami dani mo.
Halin sang pagbugtaw ko, nagabugtaw ako alas 5. Tama karayo ang ginapanaw ko. Halin sa balay, nagapanaw ako mga 2 ka oras. Kung magbaha, mabudlay, magtabo.
Our major problem is poverty. Most, if not all, of our students belong to families below poverty line. I can really relate to them because as a young boy, I have to help in the farm.
My name is Jesus Ensilada, principal of Caningwan National High School.
As a poor child and as an indigenous student, I myself have experienced to be underestimated. I have felt inferior. That is why indigenous people, the poor and the underprivileged, are very special to me.
Naguntat lang ako kay waay sinanay din kay gasto kay
Last school year, we had 50 students dropping out from school. One of the important solutions that we have is culture-based teaching.
Good morning.
It is the method wherein we integrate every aspect of the culture and traditions as Panay Bukidnon.
Math is not difficult.
This is a mathematics class introducing mathematical concept, which is arithmetic sequence using the Panubok designs. These are very familiar with the students, therefore we can expect very active participation and engagement in the lessons. What is the constant number? 10.
Para sa akon, masapos ko naintindihan ang pagpanubok kung relate sa math kay ang pagpanubok partinadaan sa amon kultura.
Every squared is divisible by 2.
Mas gusto ko takan ang ang math. At syempre ang nakasana ang mga paagi bala ni Sir Insilada nga pagtudlo ka math.
Ang sikreto ni Sir Jesus sa pagpabalik kang kabataan bisan marayo ang ginaisarananda, ginarespeto kag ginavalue gid ni Sir Jesus ang culture.
Today, we call the parents. They are our partners in keeping their children in school. Today is their day to forget the hardship, to remind them we can overcome poverty if we are educated.
Doon sadyahan kita kun nga abi naka-program kami at mudya nga ti kay gusto ko kita kang mapatapos ko nga akong mga bata hay kaming mga gikinikanan way kami tapos kapag eskwela.
Importante maka-eskwela sa matanan ma'am. Do hindi makakuha ka mga obrabla ma'am. Kung makatapusan da siyempre makakita nga ka ubra kung makatulong sa manila.
We need to connect with the spiritual world. It is very important to bring what we have here in school to the wider community. This is a gathering in the community and we are here to celebrate our culture and to make it alive.
Tama, importante. Siya na lubong na mga kultura tapos ginbuhi.
It's amazing. Culture-based teaching is really keeping the children to stay in school. We have decreased our dropout rate from 5% to 1%, and we even would like to make it 0% this school year.
Dedicated gid ako kag happy kay gusto ko gid nga matuman ang ginahandom ko nga maging isa ka nurse.
Sa praabuton gusto kong maabot ako mga handom. Gusto ko nga maahon sa kahirapan ang akon nga pamilya. Gusto ko nga mangin engineer.
It is only with the awareness of our identity that empowers us. When we are empowered, we can become productive citizens of our community, of the country, and of the world.
There, here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure everybody is really so excited to hear and see him on screen. I myself is really looking forward to hear your great lecture as well. Please give him a big clap. And of course, we welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the great man, the great mentor. We have Dr. Jesus Ensalada. Good afternoon, Doc.
Mayong hapon, good afternoon, everyone. Good day to all our brothers and sisters from the other parts of the world. I am Jesus Katigan Insilada, and I'll be delivering a talk on practices in the teaching of research, blending, pedagogical techniques, and smart practices. Let me just fix my screen. You have just watched the video, and the video says that I am an advocate of culture-based education, and I would say that it is a product of a very long study and dedication, because everyone is aware of my context, that I am a proud indigenous person as a member of the indigenous cultural community called Panay Bukidnon. Panay Bukidnon is one of the two indigenous cultural communities in Panay Island Philippines. And I'll now sharing my PowerPoint presentation. As mentioned, that I am the Principal 1 of Kaningwan National High School at the same time, the Division IP Ed or Indigenous Peoples Education Focal Person in the school's division of Iloilo. And I hope that my context and my background as a classroom teacher and now as a school head at the same time handling the Indigenous education program of the school's division of Iloilo Department of Education here in the Philippines would give you insights. At the same time I could share with you how research or my engagement in research has shaped me to what I am today. As our objectives at the end of this lecture, the participants, our virtual participants,
Good
are
afternoon, Dr.
expected.
Jesus. Dr. Jesus, we cannot perfectly see your slides. Could you possibly open it? Thank you, Doc.
Oh, let me check. Is it not projecting on your screens?
We cannot see it projected on screen, Doc. Now, what is being shown is there a lot of files. So I'm sure you have one specific file there. Could you possibly open it? Thank you.
Okay, let me check. You are screen sharing. Is it okay now?
Could you possibly open your PowerPoint window, Doc?
Okay, let me allow. Maybe I need some mentoring from you on how could I effectively share my PowerPoint.
Yes, Doc.
Okay,
I
I
would
am
like
now.
someone to help you out first.
Thank you, Sir Jimmy. I am now closing it. Okay. On my screen, I am having the share button, share screen button. Then I will proceed to basic, right? Then oh, I think it's not here. Let me stop. Share screen. Should I click basic or advanced or files? Advanced, basic. I can't find it.
Most probably, Doc, you can click your PowerPoint display using the advanced one.
Advanced. Okay.
Yes, Doc.
Then content. I have the options are portion of screen, music or computer sound only, and then content from second camera. I can find it.
So the first thing you have to do, Doc, is please open your PowerPoint.
And then go back to the Zoom.
Go back to the Zoom.
And then click share.
Then click share.
Share screen.
Okay.
Share screen.
So I open it first.
You first open your PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Then go back to Zoom.
Then click share screen.
Then click share screen.
And then
and it will just pop up.
Then select the window PowerPoint presentation.
And then select the window PowerPoint presentation. That's right, Doc. Perfect. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you for the great help. So we're back to our topic, best practices in the teaching of research, blending pedagogical techniques and smart practices. And as our objectives of the lecture, the participants are expected to make sense of the research experiences, perhaps my research experiences, and during the sharing, you might also share your experiences, and at the same time point out opportunities and contexts that would lead or that have led you to productive endeavors like engaging into research or teaching research. Second, relate to shared experiences and figure out how teaching practices can be translated into productive endeavors. And third, develop insights and express appreciation of improving one's practices and approaches in teaching research, or in the case of some, conducting research. In making sense, in 2015, I had the opportunity to go to the United States in Clemson, South Carolina, to be a part of the International Leaders in Education program under the IREX and the Fulbright Foundation Philippines. And with that experience, I was able to gain insights, sharpen my skills, and at the same time, my competency in conducting research. By the way, before I was able to qualify to that said program, I think and I believe that my background, shall I say my little background with research, because that time, before 2015, I was already into action research as one of the requirements, being as one of the expectations being a classroom teacher, aside from being into creative writing also. I was able to merge or to relate my action researches also into creative endeavors. In South Carolina, I audited subjects which I chose, subjects like culture-based education, technology in education, reading and writing, and literacy. With that subjects, I was able to be engaged with the best professors at Clemson University, research professors, who guided me to come up with my course papers, my audit papers, review papers, required papers in my chosen subjects, and at the same time, ultimately to come up with our professional module. In developing our professional development module, I worked with my colleagues or co-scholars from Malaysia, China, and Egypt. I think my skills and my background in action research and in basic research, for example, at the same time in creative writing, made it easy for me to give inputs, to help in designing, at the same time coming up with our professional development module, which is one of the major outputs, being an international leader in education program grantee. So I think the idea is that we should not limit ourselves in engaging into being part of a lot of opportunities, engaging in research, for example, finding opportunities on how to solve our day-to-day problems as classroom teachers, to develop an inquisitive mind among our learners, and at the same time, develop that skill on how to write our researches to be able to be shared to others. Because it's always a humbling experience once we are done with our outputs, is that we have that support system, we have that system to look into our works for us to improve some parts, at the same time gain that confidence that indeed I or one can make a research. And I would like to say this, that I'm very fortunate, very thankful and appreciative with the kind of people that surround me. Dr. Moralista, Dr. Del Yarte, who have been into research and innovations. And I'm very thankful for the guidance, for the friendship, and at the same time, the input they have been giving me for me to advance, and at the same time to be outcome-based researcher and classroom teacher, and now as a school head, and at the same time a culture-based education advocate. It's only recently when I really focused on the legal basis, for example, when I became more active in the research arena, when I'm already in the schools division of Iloilo as an IP focal person, and being with our research coordinator, working with research enthusiasts, and I was able to take hold, for example, the research management guidelines, which serves as our reference, major reference, as issuances, or as our that serve as our guidance or guidelines in conducting research, using my context being from the Department of Education. For us, researchers in the Department of Education, we are guided by Deputy Order number 16, series of 2017, which provides guidelines to promote and strengthen the culture of research in basic education. And we have DO number 43, series of 2015, and DO 4, series of 2016, and other issuances, rules and regulations and provisions which are inconsistent with this policy. These provisions shall be rescinded or modified accordingly. So it's very important that we are updated with latest issuances. We do not limit ourselves as to opportunities, readings, at the same time support system that we could possibly have for us to advance, for us to come up with our researches in order to improve our teaching, our teaching, at the same time the learning of our students. I've been reviewing or revisiting issuances, and we are guided also with the legal basis and issuances like the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001, or RA 9155, that mandates that the Department of Education enact policies and mechanisms through which the delivery of quality basic education may be continuously improved. Chapter 1, Section 5 includes, among the responsibilities of DepEd across all governance levels, the undertaking of educational research that will serve as one of the bases for necessary forms and policy development. In the case of the teachers, maybe at their levels, in their own classrooms, development and a continuous development in the way they are teaching and delivering the goods to their learners. In the case of the Commission on Higher Education, perhaps you have also your legal basis and issuance that would serve, that would give you the guidelines in the conduct of research in the higher education, considering that research and extension is one of the important or maybe mandated pillars of, of being in the higher education. Another is DO number 13, series of 2015, in the case of the Department of Education, which established a systematic development process promoting evidence-based policy formulation supported by research studies. As classroom teachers, we cannot just give data, we cannot just give figures, or we cannot just declare or make a statement if these are not backed up with evidences, not backed up with the research results and studies. DO number 43 series of 2015 and DO number 4 series of 2016 set guidelines on the use of Basic Education Research Fund or the BERF. DO number 24 series 2010, on the other hand, originally made such grants available, and with DO number 39 series of 2016, we have the promulgation of the Basic Education Research Agenda, which makes known the research priorities of the DepEd across 4 themes: teaching and learning, child protection, human resource management, and governance. Relating to you the legal basis and issuances of the Department of Education would give you an idea to really look into issuances and our legal basis for us to be guided with the areas where we could conduct research and which research are really needed in our using our context in our academe and in the department or in the commission we are serving. And of course, it is also very important that we look into our very own context, because our own background and our own experience would tell us or would capacitate us to do research or to teach research using this context. And in my case, I am into the indigenous people's education and the culture-based education. Including 3 cross-cutting themes also are gender and development, disaster risk reduction and management, and inclusive education. These are areas or these are themes that we could tackle or we could where we could conduct our researches in the basic education. Scope of the policy. The research management guidelines provide guidance in the management and conduct of research initiatives at the national, regional, schools division, and school levels to further promote and strengthen the culture of research in basic education. This policy also covers instructions for eligible DepEd employees in availing of research funds, as I have mentioned, the BERF. Research management guidelines. So research committees to be established or created from national to schools division levels. The research management cycle, I think this is very important, and this is a sort of an orientation also to DepEd teachers to be aware of the research management cycle, which starts with the call for proposals, evaluation or the initial screening and committee evaluation, notification of results, progress monitoring, technical assistance, provision on changes and extension, submission and acceptance, dissemination and utilization, archiving, monitoring, and evaluation. By relating this, our friends from the higher education or from other institutions would think also of the guidelines issued to them for them to be able also to revisit and review them so that they will be guided also with the cycle or the process they are following before they could come up with the production of the output up to archiving, up to utilization, archiving, monitoring, and evaluation. Of course, fund sources are very critical and very significant when we talk about research because expenses are inevitable. And if we have opportunities to have fund sources, I think that is very helpful for us. And in the case of DepEd, of course, we have the Basic Education Research Fund. And in the case of higher education institutions, I believe they have a lot also of fund sources like grants. Grants from other institutions. In my case, I am aware that there are grants coming from the National Commission on Culture and the Arts. That is in the case of the Philippines. We have also our local funds, funds coming from research institutions and others. I have here threshold questions before we proceed to our discussion and to our sharing. I would like to ask our participants if you are still okay. If you have no questions, then I have questions for you. I would like you to get a piece of paper and a pen for you to list down these questions quickly, so we could go back to these questions with your answers in the latter part of our sharing, or in the latter part of this lecture. The first question is, are you a research teacher, a researcher, or a practitioner? Second question, what are your gains in teaching, doing research? Maybe it's time for you to reflect on personal gains, professional gains after you have conducted or after you have engaged in a research project, or after you have published an action research or a basic research or a critical paper or a review paper. Number 3, what are your challenges in teaching, conducting research? Maybe you're thinking about financial constraints, something like that, and to your personal life, what are the challenges? Facilities and your capabilities to conduct research. Number 4, how do you overcome these identified challenges? How are you able to overcome these challenges? The last threshold question is that, in what ways can you improve your practices and techniques as a teacher or as a research teacher? I would like to emphasize that we really welcome even those teachers who are not teaching research but have that inclination or have plans to conduct research or be engaged in a research project. Because I would like also to admit that I had a few researches, but this time I realized how important conducting research is, and to be engaged in research projects, development projects, and conducting innovations also. It's very important that we are capable, or we master the parts of a research paper or an action research, how to write review papers or critical papers. I've been to Bangkok twice. in 2017 and 2019. Why I'm sharing this, because I would like to emphasize where your passion, where uh, your commitment and your desire would bring you. In the case of our research enthusiasts, do not underestimate what research can do for you, because Dr. Moralista could tell us, Dr. Deliarte could tell us how they were introduced to different opportunities because of their research publications, because of the bulk of research researches that they have conducted, or researches documented and shared. I think I would like also to share how my little background in research have helped me present my paper in Bangkok during the 2017 awarding of the Princess Mat Chakri Award as one of the 11 outstanding teachers in Southeast Asia, and I represented the Philippines. I would like to emphasize that our little background and our desire to improve our self each day in the case of conducting research and presenting our data in through using a research paper, or a critical paper, or um, um, yes, would really help us uh, to present well and properly, because in the academy we are really expected to be evidence based and to be aware of the template, for example, that we would like to use, because we cannot just say just what I have said, that you have created this impact without supporting it with the research that you have conducted to prove that, for example, your teaching technique that you have introduced really created an impact on your learners. So with my advocacy on culture-based education, I was able to present my paper in a research way, and thanks to the experience, the engagement, Dr. Moralista would always invite me to sit down and listen also to other expert resource persons in the field of research, and each time I engage myself with this kind of opportunities, I learn. So I would like to emphasize that to our participants, that we learn each day, every time that we are open and we engage ourselves with the different opportunities for us to arm ourselves with the needed skills, the presentation skills, and the presentation also in the form of our reports, in the form of our paper, to be read, to be shared with others. In 2017, I was able to present the paper Culture-Based Education and Its Impact to Indigenous Learners. And I presented the paper, in front of the Princess of Thailand, Princess Machakri, who handed over to me also the award, and two teachers coming from the Southeast Asia countries, the Southeast Asia, I mean. In 2019, we're also requested, all of us, 11 recipients in 2017, to go back to Bangkok to present again our paper, but not the same paper. We have to present our report on the innovations, new projects related to the first project we have presented, or to the first paper we have presented. And in 2019, I was able to present a paper on the use of indigenous contexts in teaching writing, considering that aside from being a classroom teacher then and being a school head up to now, I write in the sideline, or I write creatively, especially in the mother tongue. With this sharing, I would like to say that there are a lot of areas or a lot of themes and a lot of concepts we could choose. The list is unlimited. In the context we are very interested in, like in my case, culture-based education. Culture-based education is a very wide theme or very encompassing topic, wherein there could be a lot of subtopics that could be explored uh, for us to conduct our researches. I have talked to our schools division focal person in research, and she said that we have a few researches in the theme inclusive education, including including the indigenous people's education. And I think that posed a challenge for me and for us, indigenous people's education implementing schools, to really look into the context and the factors that affect the learning of our indigenous learners, especially in this present time when our uh, indigenous learners are considered uh, as the most affected, shall I say, sectors. The ICCs, or the indigenous cultural communities, are considered as the most vulnerable sectors in this time of the pandemic, including our indigenous learners. And I think it's very important that we conduct researches even in the new normal, looking into the effectiveness of uh, the different modalities that we use, and the most popular is the modular distance learning. I think we have a few studies and researches on this because this is unexpected. Um, so this poses a challenge to all of us, to me, and to all our participants out there to explore and to look into the context using the present situation and the factors that affect the learning of um, of our students, our learners, at the comforts of their own homes. I would like to share with you one study entitled Benefits and Challenges of Doing Research, Experiences from Philippine Public School Teachers, by a teacher from Thailand but was able to study in a university in Mindanao. Previous research studies have indicated the positive impact of doing research doing research has upon teachers, teaching pedagogies, and professional growth. However, only a few studies concerning the challenges and benefits of doing research have been conducted in the Philippines and the ASEAN region. This study explores the experiences of Philippine public school teachers in conducting a school or a classroom research project. The data were collected through individual interviews administered to 11 public high school teachers, English teachers specifically, in Mindanao, Philippines. Findings suggest that although teachers' motivations to do research were more personal rather than professional, teachers recognize some benefits of doing school and classroom-based research for their teaching practices and career development. Challenges that were reported include the lack of financial support, of course, the most common, financial constraint, heavy teaching load, lack of research skills and knowledge, and lack of research materials and resources. Implications are discussed in light of the findings and recommendations formulated for future research directions. By sharing the introduction of this research by Olya, maybe you could already relate, no, to those who have the importance that doing research. In the Philippines, doing research has become one of the important professional development programs for teachers that is emphasized by the Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Education. Teachers, both from private and public educational institutions, are encouraged to conduct action research in order to identify and address the teaching and learning issues and concerns in their classrooms and in the school. I think that is the basic principle why we conduct action research as classroom teachers. To all our classroom teachers out there, it is very useful to conduct action research for our own use, for our own consumption. And I would like to highlight that we conduct action researches not only during the time when we would like to seek for promotion or when we would like to submit our papers for promotion, and I think that defeats the purpose why we conduct action researches as classroom teachers. We conduct action researches because we would like to address everyday problems that we encounter as classroom teachers in the using the perspectives of our students, knowing their challenges in learning our lesson. At the same time, the time for us to reflect why their learning is, why their achievement, or how do we look into the factors affecting their achievement, and in order to determine that research is one of the indispensable process, one of the indispensable way to answer all these questions. Thus, the present study tries to identify the experiences of public secondary and school teachers in Mindanao in the Philippines with regard to doing school or classroom-based research, as there are only a small number of studies relating to teachers as researchers in an ASEAN context. This study attempts to fill a gap in the literature. Knowing and understanding the experiences of these teachers as researchers is vital towards the success of education research, not just in the Philippines, but in all countries in the ASEAN region. By sharing with you this research on the benefits and challenges of conducting research in the Philippine setting, maybe we could also answer questions as to why we need to conduct researches as classroom teachers, as school heads, or as head or as member of the organization that we represent, or as teachers in general. Classroom research, school-based research, teacher research, and action research have been defined in the current study as a research undertaken and conducted by teachers in the classroom and or in the school. This kind of research is done primarily to examine and identify a problem or an issue within the classroom and in the school for which teacher researchers want to find a solution by understanding it thoroughly, by Burns and Cortoglu-Houghton, 2014. Although the origin of action research is not clear, whether It began in England in 1960s from a movement of secondary modern school teachers who aimed to reform the education curriculum, or was it Kurt Lewin, a social psychologist who started action research? It already has an influence in today's research in education. McNiff in 2010 outlined the benefits of action research for professional development of teachers. When we say professional development, it does not only mean to be promoted in ranks, but also to improve our pedagogy and ultimately to improve the achievements of our students in terms of their learning. First, it reviews whether one's teaching practice meets the desired and expected outcome of one's work. Second, it evaluates teaching pedagogies that have to be changed or improved. I think this is very important to be highlighted or underlined because we conduct researches for us to improve our teaching pedagogies. Lastly, it puts a value on one's work and profession. Generally, teachers, as agents of knowledge and change, have to evaluate and assess the things they do inside the classroom in order to advance and enhance their teaching. Teachers identify the problem, reflect on it, and try to address it. This is one of the most important goals of reflective teaching through research. When teachers consider their teaching practices and are able to identify and acknowledge the issues and concerns of their classrooms and their students, they become empowered and independent to solve school issues on their own. Identifying what went wrong and what went well in the classroom, teaching and learning helps teachers to describe on the kind of teaching styles and methods for their learners. And this is how research could really help us to for us to identify our strong points, our strengths, and our weaknesses as to our practices in teaching, because teaching practices could either be good practices or hindering practices. This will lead to the improvement of their teaching skills and their students' learning. Teacher educators who are doing research studies are able to share with other educators the best practices that are important for the learners. They become confident in teaching, increase their awareness and understanding of their students, and become accountable for their own classroom teaching and learning. I think the most basic information that we need to have is the data or the information that would lead us to better understanding of the nature and the learning styles and the coping mechanisms of our learners. And in my case, the learning styles, the resiliency, and the coping mechanisms of the indigenous learners. And I think that is a very interesting theme or a very interesting topic for me to explore into, considering that I have already started works and projects on culture-based education. As a form of professional development activity, undertaking school or classroom-based research can be both rewarding and challenging for teachers and other education practitioners. Although conducting research can add to teachers' professional qualifications, skills and experience, many teachers are reluctant to do it as it implies additional workloads above their teaching load, and a number of studies have investigated factors linked to these issues or to this issue. Much of teacher education research is centered upon identifying and solving classroom and school problems, where its focus is often on reflective teaching practice and classroom teachers as researchers. I would like to stress this because these lines are very beautiful. These phrases are very beautiful. Reflective teaching practice and classroom teachers as researchers. And this would always remind us that we need to be reflective teachers with our teaching practice, and we become reflective if we conduct action researches, because the results would guide us as to what to be revised, what to be improved, and what areas do we need to double time or to make some adjustments. Second is the challenge that says that every classroom teacher should be a researcher. Why? Because going back to the principle that in order to confront and to solve everyday problems that we encounter, we could only address it effectively if we are guided with the results of the research that we have conducted. Next is that doing research simply tries to put theories into application and practice, where teachers examine themselves and analyze the kind of teaching context they are in. Furthermore, classroom research does not only bridge the gap between theories and practice, it also gives teachers professional skills in research, which is crucial for a transformative education. Research-based is transformative education. Research-based education is equals to transformative education because a lot can be improved. We are sure of what we are doing if we are guided with the results and findings of the researches that we have conducted. This one is very important. Teachers as researchers. Although there have been limited research studies on teachers as researchers in the Philippines and in the ASEAN context, more studies of this kind can be found from other countries in the world. However, a number of these studies have focused only on teachers' perceptions, beliefs, issues, and challenges with regards to doing research. For example, Deegan and Saragard in Iran reported that teachers' beliefs about doing research are shaped by the teaching practices they have for their classrooms. The 89 language teachers participating in this research stated that although they knew the concepts and principles of doing research, none of them had undertaken action research. None of the teacher participants utilized research in their classes because they thought that doing research was only for expert researchers and not for them as classroom teachers. This suggests that some teachers held a negative view regarding doing research in the school. Teachers' negative attitudes towards research can be attributed to the lack of time, incentives, and professional expertise. These three factors should be considered by the school administrators in as much as professional development for teachers is a concern. By reading this portion of the research conducted by Olia, perhaps we could relate this to our personal experiences when one thing that would hinder us or that would make us less confident of conducting researches as classroom teachers is that our mindset telling us that I am not as expert as our research practitioners to do research and utilize it to improve my teaching, my teaching pedagogies. And the factors that we could identify also are the opportunities given to us, the support system provided to us, first by the school, how aware or how or up to what extent the encouragement is given, or what its extent of encouragement or motivation is given to us in conducting our own researches. If that is not emphasized in our schools, then teachers would be reluctant. Teachers would not involve themselves in action researches to involve the teaching learning process. Another example is a study conducted by Birok in 2013 in Ethiopia which affirmed that only a few teachers conducted research studies because of the lack of teachers' research skills and expertise. Again, this could be attributed to the technical assistance or the support we are giving to teachers if we don't include this in our in-service trainings. For example, the topics, if we don't train our teachers, if we don't capacitate them to conduct action researches, then we could not produce action researches in our schools. Although the teacher participants held a positive attitude towards research, their participation and contribution were reported to be low. Factors like lack of research knowledge, insufficient research training programs for teachers to enhance and develop their research skills, and lack of reference materials limited them from doing research. So this is about constraint of research materials and references. Likewise, more recent studies in the Asian context also reporting the same challenges faced by teachers as researchers were conducted by Nurasma and Chia 2016 in Malaysia and Ellis and Lowland in 2016 in Singapore and in SW. Both studies maintained that teachers in their localities though holding positive views about research, were also confronted with the same issues of lack of time, resources, and support with regards to doing research. Some practical steps to encourage teachers to do research have been outlined by Grima. I think this is very significant and important because this would give us ideas as to how we could encourage teachers despite the mindset, despite the constraints. These studies have previously presented in the parts I have shared with you. First, teachers' needs should be looked into and provided so that their motivation to do research will increase. I think this could be manifested, or this could be identified in our individual performance review when we would identify our weak points, our areas for improvement. Generally, while the above studies have focused on some issues and challenges and on teachers' perceptions and attitudes towards research, none have discussed and explored the experiences of teachers as researchers in doing research in the Philippines and in the context of ASEAN region. Lack of empirical studies on teachers and researchers may create a big gap between theoretical and empirical studies in the literature. Furthermore, since there is a limited study of teacher researchers in the region, this study hopes to bridge this gap in the literature. This one being an important reference. We would like to study also the similar study or research in our own school, in our own station. These are the following questions addressed in the present study. What are the motivations that Philippine high school teachers have in doing research? What are the challenges that these teachers face while doing research? And what are the teachers' perceived benefits while doing research? So the method, the present study is qualitative research with content analysis as the main method in analyzing the interview data. It is qualitative as it explores, describes, and analyzes the lived experiences, interests, and concerns of 11 Philippine public school teachers about doing research. The interview data of semi-structured interviews were subjected to content analysis in order to answer the research questions. All the responses were transcribed and were read many times in order to understand the content and the message. They were then categorized into different themes and sub-themes. Talking about methods, in order for us to, because there are many methods in conducting researches, quanti and quali and the action researches, it's very important that we explore many things, a lot of things, and we do it by reading. I think in the I think information right now in the internet age, or in the age of information technology, information is just at the tip of our finger, and I think there is no excuse for us telling us that we have um, limited references or literature that we could use when we would like to conduct researches and use this as our literature. But I think it's very important that we have to create network, knowing people are into research, creating that network, maintaining that network, so that we have that support system that we could call every time that we need their support. Then they could tell us what are the sites that we could explore to get our research literature and references. They could tell us, they could give us readings on the method appropriate to the kind of research we are conducting, and of course some other concerns and some other needs that could be provided if we have that network, we have maintained that network, and we have that support system, a system of research enthusiasts and teachers who are into research. Next, we have the data gathering procedure and analysis. It is a qualitative research, and the data were obtained through interviews. We have here the results. This study has developed three main themes and sub-themes as reflected from the research questions: motivations, challenges, and perceived benefits. For the purpose of presentation, directly quoted interview excerpts were given. Pseudonyms were used for the teacher researchers being interviewed. For motivations, we have here an excerpt of the interview with the question and with the answers the respondents or the subjects had given to the researcher. On job promotion, the interview findings revealed that in addition to finishing their graduate degrees, teachers also did research for financial reasons. This means that doing research helped towards job promotion and salary increments for teachers. But what is ironic about these findings is that the reason in conducting research, which is to improve teaching practices, was not even mentioned by the subjects or by the respondents. As to the challenges, answers were also given. Okay, lack of sufficient reference materials, sub-theme. Okay, and let's proceed now to the perceived benefits. When teacher researchers were asked about their perceived benefits of doing research, a number of them stated that doing research can have a positive impact on their teaching and to their students' learning, while a few said it would make them grow professionally. Okay. I believe that doing research has a positive impact on my teaching. I would say that it makes me a better teacher because I am able to identify the aspects of my teaching that needs to be changed and improved. Okay, I think that is what I'm saying. Conducting a research improves my teaching practices. I got to improve my teaching strategies after doing a research. I was invited as a plenary speaker in one of the local research conferences here a few months ago. So they become more confident, and a number of them said that they have improved their teaching practices. Despite the many challenges that these teachers encounter in doing research, most of them affirm that doing research can have a positive effect and impact on their teaching and on them personally. They stated that their teaching practices have been improved, their professional expertise was appreciated, and their professional linkages were widened. Okay, let's proceed now. By the way, before we proceed, our online source is shown on your screens, and our researcher is Mark Olya, who finished his Master of Arts in English Language Teaching at Mindanao State University, Marawi City, Philippines, where he also obtained his Bachelor of Arts in English. He is now a lecturer at Lilac University Language Institute, Lilac University, Nakhon Si Thammarat, Thailand. Okay. Let's proceed now to some concepts regarding pedagogical techniques and practices in teaching research. One principle is common across all methodologies and methods. Research is about asking questions. We conduct research to find and test solutions to problems. I think that is very basic. And we've got this principles or these concepts from method space. And it says that in conducting research, we need a community, no? And one of them is word space, because many of us are into teaching research and into conducting researches. This post is the first of a series that will explore juxtapositions of research methods and instruction. In learning to research, researching to learn posts, I will explore ways that instructors can infuse research activities into courses where students learn about methods or curricular courses where they develop critical thinking skills. The philosopher John Dewey wrote in an era with remarkable similarities to our own. When the telegraph and telephone opened immediate communication across the oceans and continents, he noted that while these technologies had broken into barriers to bring peoples and classes into closer and more perceptible connection with one another, it remains for the most part to secure the intellectual and emotional significance of this physical annihilation of space. At the same time, the nature of work was changing with the Industrial Revolution, and Dewey saw a corresponding need to change the nature of education. People then became more inquisitive. They identified a prevalent view that the subject matter of education consists of bodies of information and of skills that have been worked out in the past. Therefore, the chief business of school is to transmit them to the new generation and criticize it as hopelessly out of step with the newly connected world. Instead, he thought students need opportunities to gain the experience through problem solving, reflection, and conducting researches. Especially now in the Philippines, in the Department of Education, that in the senior high school, research is one of the subjects. Okay, so we have here research steps, learning through inquiry, developing researcher's mindset. We will explain this further as we proceed to our next slides. Here are important concepts when talking about the teaching of research. Teach research methods, starting with a culture of inquiry. If we train our students to be inquisitive, finding solutions to the most common problems that they face as students, okay, from home to school and to the wider community, I think that would help them to become more inclined into research, especially our senior high school students who are required to have action researches or basic research outputs. Second is creating a culture of inquiry in the classroom, using inquiry models, how to ask questions, perspective and critical thinking and research, teaching research methods using collaborative learning, and a case for teaching methods. The next slide would tell us some of the approaches or some of the steps that we could use to engage our students in research activities, especially our senior high school students, our research students. First is to understand the research approach. So we have to invite students to begin by identifying the research approach, the theoretical frameworks, data collection, and analysis methods used in the case. And I would like to highlight the idea if we would like to teach research, or if we are research teachers, very important also that we are also conducting researches so that our students will become more motivated. We can use our practical ways of conducting research. We can use our own context, how we conducted our research, and at the same time share to them our the areas of interests, our the concepts, the themes that we explore in conducting our researches. Second is to assign additional readings. It's very important that we introduce students, to the sites. For example, we share to them the books that we are reading, our references, and at the same time our experiences in conducting our researches. Number three, in a discussion or a written assignment, ask students to summarize key points from this initial stage to create the context of the next stage of analysis. Second is state the problem. Okay. Ask students to identify a problem or obstacle faced by the case author in conducting the research. Number two, one problem Braun and Thunberg discussed was that sometimes the participants got stuck and stopped talking. The researchers described the strategies they used to prompt and encourage participants when this happened. Number three is to broaden the inquiry, research the problem. It's very important that we guide our students as to the identification of the problems that are very interested for them, so that they could really explore the different possibilities in finishing a research output. To dig deeper into the case or into the problem. And three, using resources identified. And four, for an experiential activity, students can practice interviewing. I think this is very important, how to conduct interviews in gathering data. Number four, offer alternative solution and approaches to the problem. Number five, offer and describe implementation. 6, finalize the case analysis. Number 7, describe the implementation. And number 8, finalize the case analysis. This is just one example. This is just one method. Humans conceptualize all the time, comparing objects, events, emotions, everything. To capitalize on this natural tendency, we raise the learning environment to give tests the students to increase their effectiveness, working and using concepts, and we hope that continuously develop your skills for doing so. They suggest 3 guidelines for planning this kind of learning experience. First is focus, concentrate on an area of inquiry within a specific domain that is feasible for students to master within the time frame of the assignment. Second is conceptual control, organize information into concepts and gain mastery by distinguishing between and categorizing concepts. And number 3, converting conceptual understanding to skills. Learn to build and extend categories, manipulate concepts, and use them to develop solutions or answers to the original questions. We have also inquiry models. How can we use inquiry models to teach research methods? Online or face-to-face research activities can be developed that apply the Wills et al.'s guidelines. Here are a few ideas that can be used with individual students or as team activities. So we have here focus, conceptual control, and converting conceptual understanding to skills. How research is taught? How can we teach research in the time of the pandemic? It is, I would like to believe that the most common modality that we are using right now here in our area, or perhaps in the Philippines, is the modular distance learning. And let us see how could we teach research using this modality. First is providing supplementary and teacher-made instructions and suggestions to students if we feel that the instructions or perhaps the content in the module is not enough, because we are here to distribute quality assured modules which are not teacher made, but we can do supplemental materials if we would like to include what we think is very important part in teaching research to our students. Second is using technology, all means all. And I would like to see here that we explore all possibilities. We have our platforms, we have our group chat, we have We have Quizalize, we have other platforms, we have different technologies that we could explore. But what is more important is that we should not be overwhelmed by the long list of technologies that we could use in reaching out to our students in remote teaching and learning, but we should uh, learn and master all these technologies one at a time, because we cannot, um, though we are free to explore different technologies, let's also, as a product of research, is for us to figure out which technology works best for our students using our context. Like for example, in my area, um, when internet connection is not stable or inconsistent, then that is one consideration also as to what technology or platform the teacher should going to use in teaching research or in teaching some other subjects he or she is handling in this time of the pandemic. Consultation mechanisms, we could have consultation time. Students may have consultation time with us, and they could also make use of possible communication modalities or means using phones, through texting, calls, and group chat. I think is the fastest, and I think again that is a product of investigation, a product of research, which means or which technology best works for you and your students. I think number 4 is also very important consideration for us research teachers, because we are not know-it-all individuals or persons. Uh, we need the expertise of other researchers or research practitioners. And I think one idea is that if our students see us always in our Zoom and they cannot see some other faces, new faces, I think they will also get bored. And if we invite someone to be a resource person on a specific topic, then that would also give them excitement to meet our resource person. Processes of evaluating proposals, follow-ups, validation, finalizations. I think it's very important that we develop also a system on how we evaluate the research proposals, how they will submit their initial research outputs. How do we give follow-ups? How do we give inputs? In what means, or in what manner, or in what technology? Using what technology? Our validation and finalization feedback, and our go signal when we could say that the research is already ready for publication or for sharing. Of course, publication and archiving is very important, because that would give us the feeling of celebration when we would feel that we have produced a certain research. In the case of our students, I think that is more meaningful when they would see their final output in bound form, or in a book form, for example, or perhaps in a booklet form, in the case that they are just producing simple researches. Smart practices in teaching research. I think I am now in the final slides. And how are you, my dear participants? Are you still okay? Let's proceed now to smart practices in teaching research. Smart practices in teaching research are always geared towards mastering the method, learning along, and always outcome-based. Learning along is very important to be highlighted, because when we teach research to our students, we don't emphasize that they do research just for compliance. They do research for them to master the method, for them to come up with the solutions to the identified problems. SMART here is an acronym which means sustaining the culture of inquiry-based instruction. If we engage our students with different opportunities, where they could develop their inquisitive mind and come up with their action researches and research outputs. That is one way to cultivate the culture of inquiry-based instruction, when students learn best because they conducted that certain activity. They have identified the problems, the factors, and they have the findings, and they have the ability to present the findings. Second, measurable in terms of produced outputs. As research teachers, it's very important that our that we emphasize that we are outcome based or output based, and we would like really our students to have MOVs, or means of verification, that they have learned something if they can already translate theory into practice, meaning the method that we have taught them could already be translated into creating research output that we require to them in our class. A is achievable, standards-based, and process, taught in an understandable manner. Though in teaching research, for example, the senior high school, we have standards, we have competencies that we need to meet, but I think it's always a challenge for teachers on how to make complicated things simple. So I think it's a challenge for us research teachers how to motivate our learners, how to present the concepts in a very understandable manner so that they could really uh, practice the the concepts that we have shared to them and come up with their research outputs. Research-based, realistic, and resourceful. What I mean here is that when we are um, uh, we would if we would like to study the impact of the research pedagogies that we are using to our students, it's very important that we are research-based, realistic, and of course that pedagogy or practice is also very resourceful. Last is time-bound, which emphasizes timeliness and approaches are novel. Our pedagogies or practices are also anchored or based on or related to recent studies, and approaches also developed in the present time. Here are now our checkpoint as we go along with our journey. We have our here checkpoint questions. Actually, this were the questions I posed in the first parts of our sharing. One is, are you a research teacher, researcher, practitioner? What are your gains in teaching, doing research? What are your challenges in teaching, conducting research? How do you overcome these identified challenges? And in what ways can you improve your practices and techniques as a teacher, research teacher? We are posting here the threshold questions now as checkpoint questions because this is now the time where uh, we will listen to your answers, your insights after you have listened to my lecture. Okay, we need also to go back to the objectives and try to check ourselves if we have really made sense of the research experiences I have shared with you, the opportunities like the birth in the case of the Department of Education, and other grants and other opportunities in the case of the higher education institutions, and at the same time the contexts shared from my own experiences and based on the research study I have shared with you. Number two, were you able to relate the shared experiences, to your own experiences, and figure out how teaching practices, the teaching practices we have discussed or I have shared can be translated into productive endeavors in your own practice, in your own classrooms or in your own rooms where you would hold your virtual classes. Number three, have you developed insights and have you expressed appreciation of how finding opportunities would improve your practices and approaches in teaching research? I think this is very significant. These questions, it's very significant to go back to these questions as you now formulate your answers to assess your own learning being a part of this lecture. And I would like now to share with you these takeaways. Your takeaways, perhaps. I'm just guessing if this could be your takeaways, like finding opportunities to improve oneself. We don't need to be research experts to be able to conduct a research study, because along the way we learn many things. We meet a lot of expert persons who would help us, and we learn along the way. So it's very important to find opportunities to improve our pedagogies and our practices in teaching research and in conducting research. Second, it is very important that we understand the contexts and the benefit, and we understand the benefits that we could derive from the experience of being a classroom, a teacher teaching research, and a teacher who conducts research. Then, learning from others. I think this is very important. We need to explore, we need to go out, we need to meet all friends, especially this time. I think it's not an excuse when you would say that you cannot go to other places and meet our experts here in our network. For example, we can meet experts who could help us. There are sites where we could read a lot of works. Reading is very important. Therefore, we would say that learning never stops. For us to be able to improve each day our teaching practices, blending pedagogical techniques with smart practices, we need to find opportunities, attending webinars. This time I may not give everything that would help you, but somehow the insights that we could get from the people we have listened to would help us bridge the gap, bridge the gap of our being a classroom teacher or being a research teacher, bridging the gap between our teaching and the learning of our students. For the last slide, I would like to share with you a very significant insight coming from Nobel Prize winner in 1937, which says, research is to see what everybody else has seen. Research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought. Research is to see what everybody else has seen, but what makes us relevant and gaining our edge is that research or that insight or that research information or idea would give a new and novel insight or idea that nobody has thought before. Thank you very much and a pleasant day.
Thank you very much, Doc Jesus Ensalada. Well, I'm pretty sure, Doc, that you have inspired a lot of participants here. Now, having heard that great presentation, it's time for our participants to ask questions. This is already an open forum. So I'm sure, Doc, you are pretty ready to be asked questions. And I'm sure our participants are so eager to hear your answers as well. So hold on for a while. I'll give you like around a minute or two break. I'm sure that also our participants are ready to ask you questions. It has been a very great day for you to share something, especially all about your experience. Hold on for a while, Doc.
May questions na iutang na sa chat box. Basahan mo lang.
Mm.
I-read yung file, no?
Okay. So we're inviting first all our participants. Please write down your questions in the chat box. Then I'm going to ask our great lecturer, our great speaker. He is all set and ready to answer the questions. So again, just like what we had in the morning, our participants did answer the questions. This time, formulate the questions, okay? Once you formulate the questions, we will immediately also give you your e-certificates, okay? So we're encouraging all our participants to now start formulating your questions, and our speaker, Dr. Jesus Ensalada, is now also and ready to answer your questions, and you guys be inspired by the answers coming from our lecturer. So I need now the questions from our chat room to be ready. So again, we're inviting all our participants. Get ready with your questions because Doc Jesus is now ready to answer your questions as well. Again, we need your questions, and I'm pretty sure you also need your e-certificates. So it's just a two-way process. Now get ready with your questions. Our lecturer or speaker is now ready to give you substantial answers to your questions. Wow. Okay. Process. Now get ready with your questions. Our lecturer or speaker is now ready to give you substantial answers to your questions. Wow. I can see a big face with a lot of hearts from Agatha Rica being Aurelia. I'm sure she's ready to ask questions as well, being one of the participants. Yeah, jot down your questions. Dr. Jesus has been waiting for your questions, guys. sure you guys are waiting for your e-certificates as well. So we're inviting you, we're encouraging you to please write down, start jotting down your questions now. Again, thank you very much, Doc Jesus. It has been really a great day. Wow. I personally also have been looking forward to seeing you. I've heard a lot about you. We just are actually from neighboring towns. I'm from Haniway, and you're from Lambunao. Thank you very much, Doc. Okay, I guess our participants are now getting ready to ask questions. Okay, participants, get ready with your questions before we hold on for a while. So again, while we're waiting for your questions, tomorrow we will be having two more speakers, and of course, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Please subscribe again to our YouTube channel. That's IORIE Learning Center. Okay, we got here one question now. Jacques Jesus. Okay, this question came from Renette S. Pauly, and the question is there a budget in the division office if you're conducting research? Is there a budget in the division office if you're conducting research?
I guess the question is coming from a teacher in the Department of Education. The Basic Education Support Fund is competitive in nature. What I mean to say is that you have to present a very good proposal, because we have the process in the initial screening and up to the last stage until you are already selected and considered for the grant money. So it's competitive in nature, but the schools division is also accepting proposals, not as birth, not under the birth, no, meaning you could present proposals, but you'll not be funded. That means that you'll be conducting the research proposal by taking good care of your expenses, but I think the benefits is also rewarding in the end. So the answer is we don't have budget for those who will not qualify for the Basic Education Research Fund, except that if we could outsource funds from the outside, and that means institutions like the National Commission on Culture and the Arts, which has competitive grants again that happens every year. Thank you very much for your question.
Okay. Thank you also, Mom Renette, for raising the question. Doc, here's another question. Is this new normal situation, in this new normal situation, how are we going to maximize the conduct of research where face-to-face is not allowed, especially in senior high school students?
I think that is a challenge on the part of the teacher, but we believe in what a teacher, a research teacher, can do, because first and foremost, he or she is a research teacher. He identifies the problems, and he or she can really find solutions to these problems, again, by mastering the methods of research. I have said that all means all, meaning exploring all the possibilities, how we could reach out to our students. Again, that poses challenge to us, but we do not settle with what others are also doing, but we need to be more creative and innovative. All means all, meaning exploring all the possibilities. In some cases or in some contexts, like areas with very inconsistent internet connection, and if there are also very low or no cases of COVID-19, no recorded cases. Teachers would gather a small group, of course, by observing protocols also imposed by the government and other agencies. They would give also, no, they could give instructions face to face in a limited number of students. In some areas where schools would opt for online modality, um, teachers, research teachers, I believe, are the most advanced teachers. They have their rooms, chat rooms, they have identified technology, different technologies on how to reach out to their learners in the new normal. It's only a challenge if we have not done something about it. But if we are passionate enough and motivated enough, we would, I think this is also the mindset that research would like to give us, that we really dare to find the unthinkable, to do the unthinkable. Others may have not thought about this, but if we have devised and we have introduced about it, then that would be possible. And again, that is a product of research. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Doc. That was a question coming from Almera Salas. That's right. As long as you are passionate with what you're doing, whatever challenges you meet along the way, you can always overcome them. Doc, here's another question coming from Mom Sheena May Jimeno. How do you make students to be research oriented, considering inadequacies in resources?
Okay. I have shared that I am a culture-based teacher, and I always say this to my teachers who say that we have limited references, we have limited literature, for example. Literature, very important, research literature as our references, but as to the content, as to the areas of research or themes for research, we can always choose themes or areas that are already available or possible of exploring. What I mean is that I cannot conduct researches in the areas I'm not good at, but I could really encourage my students to engage in culture-based teaching, culture-based learning, integrating aspects of culture, both in content and pedagogy, and how this could improve uh, learning. So what I want to say is that use themes, use areas for research that are already familiar, first and foremost to the teacher and of course to the students. So limited resources, I think one way to bridge the gap is to encourage teachers also how to do research, how to write their research, and how to share their research, so that in our level, in our own school, if we have archive of the past researches our students and we have conducted, then we could really share this to our students. If we encourage our teachers to write content, in my case about culture, if they are trained to document, and to archive, if we train teachers to become writers also, then we could bridge the gap of having limited resources or references in our school, in our own classrooms. As a research teacher, you need to have one corner. You even share your own books, you even bring your own library in your own classroom, but this time in this new normal, e-books are also available, or our materials could be made into e-forms, okay, into JPEG forms. We could share this to our students, and also to help our students access sites that we are using also. We need to recommend to them the sites that we have discovered or the sites that were recommended to us by our friends who are enthusiastically into research. And these are just some of the recommendations or suggestions. We could have some other possibilities. Thank you very much.
End of the question. Thank you, Mom Sheena. Doc, here are other series of questions. Wow. It's good that our participants are actively participating. Now, the next question is, since we have the new educational system, what strategy can you share for all of us to still continue to do research despite this difficult time, despite this pandemic?
One is to really identify a team, because we would expect that in our 20 students, only a few would really have that passion that we same as the passion that we have. So I think one that I would suggest is to really have that a small team of students that you could mentor. Who knows that the student that you could mentor will also mentor their other classmates, and I think that serves the purpose of mentoring the mentees and turning the mentees into mentors themselves.
Okay. Doc, we have here one statement coming from Sir Kim, Kim Aguilar. It says here, printed modular modality for research in our school make it hard for the learners to understand and practice making research since only few can be reached through messenger. Any reaction?
Yeah, I think that would also vary from place to place. There are places also where connection is also good. As what I have said, you need to study all these things, all these considerations, so that you could decide which delivery modality could best work for you. We have both online and offline modalities, and you can list down all the modalities, the possible modalities in your own area, and come up with your own decision depending on the result of your investigation or study. There is hardship, really, when students study for their own, read for their own, and understand the written text without the guidance or the help of the teachers. But it's very important that we also give time to provide follow up or to give feedback, so that um, we can make sense of that their track or their pace of learning.
Thank you, Doc. The next question is coming from Merly Talagan. I guess she's asking about the length of time. And it's something like this. May I ask of the minimum length of implementation of the action research? Is 3 months acceptable, Doc?
I think the interpretation also varies from division to division. I remember that I was even given only 4 weeks, and that is only 1 month to conduct my research. But I think what I want to say, I don't want to say things which I'm not certain. But my suggestion or recommendation is that to always coordinate with your research focal person, because as what I have said, interpretation and at the same time guidelines may also, though we have the general guidelines, but there are also some considerations and changes, especially in this time of the pandemic. Things may change. There might be considerations, and I think my best suggestion would you would always be updated and always communicate with your division research focal person.
Doc, somebody's asking about timeline. Is there a timeline from the division office in conducting action research, specifically if someone doing it is not a recipient?
Okay. The division is issuing a memorandum when they would already accept proposals or proposals for both non-birth and birth grants. So I think it's again very important. Talking about timeline, maybe you would like to ask when acceptance of proposals, when do acceptance of proposals start, and then the other activities related to that. Again, it's very important to be very updated, and I think reading, um, asking and coordinating with proper authorities in your divisions, because I do not know as to what divisions are you affiliated with. Thank you.
Okay. Um, I think Sir Danilo Lomigo's question is almost similar to the budget thing. It's something like this, Doc. Again, please enlighten him. Do we have this budget from the department intended for researches? How could we possibly apply? He's asking for how to apply for
So
finance.
what I have said, we have the Basic Education Research Fund, or the BERF, and I have already given the steps, the process, the research cycle. So first we have the call for the proposals, we have the screening, and then we have the screening, and we have the guidance given to, once accepted, you'll be given the guidance what to do next, and up to the final stage, which is the publication, sharing, and archiving.
Okay.
So
Doc,
there is a grant.
Mom Juliet wants to ask you the question. In this time of pandemic, is it okay to give questionnaires to her respondent? I mean, like teachers personally.
I think everything has changed, especially in the delivery and retrieval of our questionnaires and research instruments. I have seen teacher researchers, who would just send through email. I think you need also to decide as to what system of delivery and retrieval are you going to use, because if you will not talk to them personally, or this person are not familiar to do, they might not open their uh, emails as expected. So you might be waiting things that will not happen. It's very important also that you develop a system. Watch what system would best work for you. Others are using the email. Others are even sharing it. I have seen others sharing it in a GC, for example. Like for example, we have the GC, or the group chat for school administrators, and expected respondents are school administrators, and then they would just post the questionnaire with, of course, that is restricted group. No? Only a few could access, and so I think that is also very systematic way, with all the supporting documents like the permit and all.
Doc, here is a question coming from Shini. Good afternoon, Doc. What research methods would you recommend to those who are eager in studying the IP community?
I think it depends. We could have both. It depends to the kind of study or you are going to conduct on IPs. But if you would like to make it qualitative, then I think we have a few. Okay, I think that is encouraged if we could have also qualitative researches, because in the academe, especially our requirements, okay, required for our thesis in the previous years, we have so many uh, quantitative researches. But if you would like to, but I do not say that the quantitative kind of researches are not applicable in studying IPs or the indigenous knowledge system and practices, for example. but I would like to encourage our teachers to make use also qualitative or perhaps quali. Thank you.
Doc, we have here one newly hired teacher. That's Mom Hannah Dane Honolaria. She wants to ask, what can you advise to the newly hired teachers like her with regards to conducting action research?
As a new teacher, I think you don't need to hurry up, especially if research is new to you, or maybe you have background already during college days or during your perhaps some outside dip end. But I would like to tell you that especially now that we are in this time of the pandemic, you would just take things easily or one step at a time, uh, as long as you would like to answer most common problems. I think you're in the right track of conducting researches. But if you feel that you are not yet confident to conduct one, I think it does not help to be to rush. Though the eagerness, the energy is also very important, the passion. But what I mean is that you need also to learn many things, and I think the experience would make you grow, would make you ready to. But I would like also to say that there's no harm really in trying.
Yeah, there's no harm in trying. Wow. Do you have any other questions, participant? They're all very eager, Doc Jesus, to hear some insights from you.
But I would like also to emphasize this, that I'm not that as prolific, as productive as other research teachers or researchers and practitioners. I have only a few researches, but I compensate my few researches by producing creative work. So that means that if I'm not into researches, I'm into creative works, because for us in the Department of Education, we are rated in this area for our research publications or for creative outputs. So what I mean is that you cannot really force yourself to produce a lot of research outputs, but if you are also into creating creative works, because what I have said, I'm writing stories, novels, poems, and that is just one area: research, publication, and creative works. So that's what I did. If I don't have too many researches, I produce creative works. Thank you. I think you are muted, Sir Jimmy.
Yes, Doc, I'm so sorry. Here's almost the final question. Doc, can you recommend the use of technologies like Google Forms as a means of distributing questionnaires and gathering data from respondents?
I think the answer to that depends on the agreement, because you have also to study, you have also to seek the advice of your advisor, you have also to study the possible reaction of your respondents or subjects. If that is fine with them, then that would be fine. But you need also to be more aware of the culture that you have in the area where you are conducting your own research. If that would be fine to them, or that would be fine with them, then that would be okay.
I guess we're almost done, Doc. Questions have been clarified.
Thank you.
Anyway, Doc Jesus, thank you very much for sharing your time, imparting your knowledge. It has been a great help for, of course, for the participants. And we hope to see you in the near future. And we hope, and at the same time, keep safe, Doc.
Thank you very much, Sir Jimmy, and to all our participants. And I hope to meet you all in person. And thank you very much to Dr. Moralista and Dr. Deliarte. These are persons I really look up to when it comes to research. And of course, they have very, very prolific research life.
Doc Jesus, final words for our participants?
To all our participants, keep exploring, keep learning. There is no harm in trying. If your heart really is for conducting action researches, you are free to do so. Always remember that we conduct research to improve ourselves, to improve our teaching, learning, and it's always with God's guidance that we can do all these things, because we cannot always make use this as an excuse that we have constraints and we cannot do this, because constraint or insufficiency is always the mother of creation. We create because we would like to respond or to answer to the gap or the problem that we face. Thank you very much, and I hope you will use that premise, or you will use that idea to become more productive and resourceful.
Keep safe, Doc. Keep safe, everyone. Thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you very much.
So again, to all our participants, we are about to post the link in our live chat. This link will enable you to see what the evaluation form is. You have to fill it out, because I'm sure you really need to have your e-certificates. Again, we are about to send the link in the live chat. It's all about the evaluation forms. Again, to those who have raised questions, thank you very much. I'm sure you have not just been enlightened, but you have also enlightened your other co-participants. And keep safe, everyone, as well. Wow, it has been a great day. That was the topic, best practices in the teaching of research, blending pedagogical techniques and smart practice. Thank you, Dr. Jesus Ensalada. Now, having shared great thoughts, great insights, and knowledge as well, it's time to show you again the beautiful video. This is exploring the beauty of the 5th district of Iloilo. Here it is. So again, thank you very much to all our participants. Keep safe, everyone. See you again tomorrow.